All right. So, good evening, folks. I'd like to welcome you to another beautiful meeting for the Progressive Montco Racial Justice Working Group. Before we get started, as always, I'd like to go around, introduce yourself just by your name and how you're feeling today. All right. So we're going to start with Miss Allie Frazier.
Hi, my name is Allie and I live in Jenkintown Borough, and I am excited about tonight's meeting. I'm so glad that we have so many people here. So that's my word, excited.
Thank you. Miss Angelique Hinton.
Hi, I'm Angelique Hinton. I'm from Norristown. Well, I live in West Norton. And I'm happy. I'm happy that we're going to get to talk about, I'm always happy to learn new information. And I feel like I've learned a lot in the last couple of months, so I'm excited because I think we're going to learn some new stuff tonight. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Charlie Brzezinski.
Hi.
I'm sorry.
Yep. You got it right. That's all right. Charlie, I'm in Fort Washington. Feeling good. It's the middle of the week. Just excited to learn and, a little bit de-stressed from work, but excited to learn and, get some new information.
Thank you. Mr. Bill Tierney.
Feeling good. Got to meet Mark recently. I met Angie via Zoom, and I'm anxious to get some new information to work with, to use on a daily basis here.
Thank you. Miss Jennifer Maslow.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jennifer Maslow. I am from Lower Providence, which, if some of you don't know, that's also where the county jail is located. I'm just really excited to be at another one of these meetings. I'm learning so much, and I look forward to helping the citizens of Montgomery County in the future with all of the information that we're gathering and getting strong. And also, hi to Angie. It's always nice to see you. So,
hey, Jen.
Thanks.
Thank you. Randy and Pam.
Hi, I'm Randy. We live in Cheltenham. I'm admittedly a little zoomed out after sort of continuous meetings since 6 o'clock, but happy to be here. Looking forward to what we're going to be learning tonight.
And I guess I'm also excited about being part of this group and learning more too, as people were saying, and figuring out where to go from here and how to get involved.
Thank you. Mr. Dean Beer.
My name is Dean Beer. I want to thank you, Mark, for inviting me and being part of this conversation regarding bail reform. It's an issue I'm passionate about, and look forward to learning more. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Anne Marie.
Oops. Okay, sorry. Just had to make sure I was muted. Hi, everyone. I'm Anne Marie. I'm from Bluebell. I think my word would be ready. I haven't been able to attend some of the past meetings, but I've been able to catch up online, and I'm just ready to be here in person this time and listen and learn.
Thank you. Jan Culp.
Hello.
Hey.
I'm Jan. I'm from Bluebell, and I'm excited to be here too. I'm looking forward to learning more about the bail system.
Thank you. Miss Anania Jones.
Good evening. My name is Anania Jones. I'm a student at Westchester, and I'm a part of the NAACP and a couple of other organizations. And if we're sharing words, I came on here a little bit late. I guess I would say I'm also ready to learn more.
Thank you. Miss Kelly Gehrig.
Oh, I turned the sound on and the video off. Hey, Hi, Kelly. I'm from Lower Providence. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to learn more and get to work.
Appreciate you. Mr. Jamie Malley.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. Jamie Malley, Plymouth Township. I too seek to continue the building of knowledge here on these issues, and still blown away from the meeting 2 weeks ago with Ms. Jones and Mr. Beer. So thanks for all being here again.
Appreciate you. And last but definitely not least, our special invited guest tonight is Montgomery County Commissioner, Mr. Ken Lawrence.
Special invited, huh? Thank you, Mark. Good to see you, man. Hope things are getting better in the household there. I know you're going through. So I'm Ken Lawrence. I live in Plymouth Township. And as Mark said, I am one of your 3 Montgomery County commissioners. It's good to see some familiar faces and friends on the call. You know, I'm excited. This is my second Zoom this week with Angie. So that can't be, that can't be a bad thing. So looking forward to the conversation.
Right. So,
and I can say too that Val is joining. She's texting. She's trying to get off another Zoom. But so I don't know who's watching, but if you can watch too, she will be popping in too.
Okay, that's greatly appreciated. Here she goes right here, actually. Jumped right in as soon as we said your name, Dr. Arkoosh.
Wow, really?
Absolutely.
Oh my God, that's a little scary. Sorry I'm late. I was on a PA Dems Latino Caucus event, so.
It's fine. So we're just introducing ourselves and just a word for how you feel this evening.
Hopeful.
I'm glad. I think most of the people on this call are actually hopeful. So just some background so that Ken and Val, our 2 commissioners, are a bit more aware of what the purpose of today is and what we've been working on in Progressive Montco. So recently, some time ago, we came up with an issue of ending cash bail, right? And wanting to push an issue of ending cash bail in Montgomery County. But in doing research, one of the things that we found was it's not just as simple as saying we want to end cash bail. It's not as simple for us as citizens either to just say that. There's a lot more pieces to the puzzle. Along with us doing research and finding out different ways what it looks like in places that have ended cash bail already, we have started to talk to folks from Montgomery County to get more information because we know that we're also starting the pretrial unit in Montgomery County, which is one of the steps towards rectifying our pretrial detention, issues that we have. So initially I reached out, to you guys and asked if you guys could attend because we had questions in regards to what this was going to look like for Montco. Is it going far enough, right? And was it going to actually serve its purpose, right? So it would make no sense to create a pretrial unit if we still had 70% of the people in the county, their pretrial being held, because of a bail, because they couldn't afford $500 bail, right? The fact that we have people currently sitting in the county who can't afford bail for a shoplifting arrest, right? Like somebody with shoplifting kind of doesn't have bail money. Wow, that's what the arrest is. So just looking at, an appropriate way to do that. So I know I have spoken to Judge Del Ritchie. He has agreed to meet separately. I'll discuss with you guys what that's going to look like. But so we wanted to speak to the commissioners today because, again, this is a learning process for us. And I'd venture to guess it's a learning process for the county also because it's never been done here, right? Like we've been operating under the same system. So as we learn, I think we have an opportunity to I have this hope of Montgomery County, right? Like, and I don't want to make this about me, but I'm in the process of buying a home. We could very well have purchased a home in the past 2 months outside of Montgomery County that was affordable to us, our size, right? And we could have done that. but we are really, I have this belief in Montgomery County that we could probably do some things in Montgomery County that people around us in Pennsylvania can't do. I think we have a bigger population of folks willing to do these things, willing to listen, willing to learn, and actually be on the forefront of how to do it the right way, right? So last week we had a public defender from New Jersey on with us, who New Jersey, I don't know if you guys know, they've already ended cash bail. So there's a couple of differences in their system, one mainly being their PD's office is from the state. It's not countywide. So, but New Jersey has ended cash bail. They go on a point system, which we'll discuss, you know, as we go through the call tonight. So we learned a lot in that call. So naturally, the next steps were to talk to the folks where we live at about our new pretrial services unit and what that's going to look like, which brings us to tonight with you guys. Additionally, I invited and I asked them to come in an unofficial capacity to Sergeant Tierney. I'm on a Chief Tierney. I'm sorry. Chief, I got COVID brain, Chief. I got COVID.
That's all right. That's okay.
I invited Chief Tierney because one of my thoughts in this entire process is anything that has to do with our criminal justice system, the police are going to be intimately involved in what that looks like, right? So they need to be completely aware of not just what we give them to say, okay, this is what we want you guys to do now, officers, right? But the spirit behind what it is that we're doing so that chiefs are able to train their officers the right way behind what, you know, but in the spirit behind what we're doing, and not so that we don't continue to have the same problems that we all know we have, you know, with our incarceration rates and who's incarcerated and who gets bail, all of those things. So with that being said, Commissioners Arkoosh and Mr. Lawrence, I would give you guys the opportunity to just give us a brief synopsis on what your understanding of what the pretrial unit that's coming to Montco would actually look like and what's its purpose.
Great. Well, I'll start. I'll jump in. Thanks, Mark. Good evening, everybody. It's good to be back here with all of you again. And I just want to reiterate that we share your goal to end cash bail here. We've been working on this at the county now for 3 years, I think, was when the initial conversation started. And we laid down a marker in the budget for the 2020 year to begin recruiting the people to that program. And then in 2021, just about the only positions that we put into this 2021 budget were for the staff, the team for this pretrial division. Because as you can imagine, the budget was pretty tight this year. So I think one thing that's really important to understand from the outset is that this program is in the courts. You know, it is a court program by definition. But we are doing everything that we can as commissioners to support the program. And of course, that means making sure that the budget support is there to hire all the people that need to be hired to carry it out. And then also that other county programs are, as appropriate, fully part of this and supporting it. So obviously the PD's office is one, so is the Montgomery County Office of Behavioral Health, the Office of Drug and Alcohol. There are many other of the Health and Human Services departments that will also be supporting this effort because the big piece of this will be to work with people who are pre-trial and perhaps in need of services, perhaps they're in need of treatment, you know, whatever it is that they need. The whole point is to help them get what they need to prevent them from going to jail and hopefully prevent them from being in a situation where they become justice involved down the road. So that is our vision. We were greatly aided in this work, but there's been not many, but one or two good things that have come out of COVID. And one of the things that came out of COVID is that when it started to hit in our county, and you know, we were one of the first, the outlines of this pretrial service department were already on paper, and Judge Del Ricci took it on really as a very personal goal of his to release as many individuals as possible from the correctional facility, starting with individuals who were there on cash bail pretrial. And we went from about, I think, 13, almost 1,400 individuals down to around 800 individuals. And that's where we've been since. And that is our goal, to really not change that and hopefully continue to drop that number. But because we already had this framework on paper, they were able to move pretty quickly. So I'm very hopeful that this is going to be a very robust program here. And just the last thing I would say before I turn over to Ken is that, and Mark, you said this well, this will be a bit of a learning process for everybody here. And we look forward to your input and to ongoing discussion, suggestions, et cetera. But again, I do want to be really clear that the courts are where that will really have to be primarily aimed. We're always happy to help, support, and echo, but the courts will be the ones to fully implement suggestions and tweaks and you know, whatever else we learn that needs to be improved. But we look forward to working with you in that process.
So, you know, Val covered a lot there. I just want to add that we added 2 positions in 2020 to start to implement this, and we were able to do that during COVID. There are only 3 departments in county government that, well, 2 departments that got new positions, and that was voter services. As you all can imagine, with mail-in voting, we need to staff up there. The Office of Public Health, as you all can imagine, you know, we continue to face COVID and deal with that. And then the pretrial services unit, which was 15 employees, which is pretty huge for county government to do that. You know, this is something that I've been committed to since I was appointed a commissioner in 2017. I was fortunate enough to be elected in 2019. And when we were sworn in on January 4th, 2020, which feels like a really, really long time ago, you know, Jennifer mentioned Lower Providence, where our correctional facility is. Well, our swearing in ceremony was at your sinus. So right down the street from there. You know, one of the things I said after I was sworn in is that we were less than 5 miles from a place where there were people who were locked up, not because they had been convicted of a crime, but because they could not afford bail. And that's something that shouldn't be happening. And we are committed to making sure that it ends here in Montgomery County. And working with the courts to do that. You know, where we do have leverage is that we have the power of the purse. So, and there's already been talk from the district attorney's office and the public defender's office that they're going to need more staff to accommodate this. And Val and I aren't allowed to talk about this here or go but you know, we're all the way in on this. You know, I did reach out to, after Mark reached out, he reached out to Judge Del Ricci, and they just couldn't pull it together to be here tonight. But I believe you all have had a conversation. You know, Doug Coppin, who is running the program here, came from Camden. You know, I call him the Donovan McNabb of pretrial services. He's done it in 3 different places. I've learned a lot from this. I'll continue to learn. But what I'll continue to do is make sure that the funding is there and continue to push if we don't feel that it's going in the right way, if it's not going far enough.
I appreciate you both for that. So one of the things you spoke to goes to one of the questions that we had, which was about the people who were hired for the pretrial unit. When you say there were 15 hires, so what exactly, like when we're hiring folks for the pretrial unit, are we talking about like social workers to help do background, investigators, or more money to the public defender's office for representation at pretrial hearings? Is any of that included, I mean, in the new hires, or could we find, so like is representation at pretrial hearings even part of this process that we're looking at?
Yes. So I can't give you the exact job categories, but that we really do need Judge Del Ritchie on here, but I can give you the general representation at the preliminary hearing will be provided for sure. So if the individual doesn't have their own attorney, then there will be a public defender there. So that is part of this. The pretrial services group they're setting up teams. I'm not exactly sure the configuration of them and what each particular person's duty is, but to your bigger question, yes, on the social services, I mentioned that earlier, that multiple departments will be involved in supporting this effort, so that whatever services, supports, et cetera, people need, that will probably mostly come from other county departments, but then these teams will be working with, a certain number of individuals, and we'll be working with them. They'll have an assigned person, and they'll be working with them to figure out everything that they need for this period before the trial. And I think in some cases, depending on the charges, there might be opportunities for people to go into treatment programs or other things that could eventually result in the charges being dropped and not even having to ever see the inside of that courtroom, to begin with. So I don't want to say too much more because I might make a mistake here, but that's the general construct.
Thank you. That's what we're looking for too. I'm clear, and I think the other folks are clear on the fact that the actual folks on the program are the ones that are going to be able to give us specifics, right? But it's a lot easier to go into that dialogue if we at least have an understanding, like I said, of the spirit of what we're trying to do, so we could know, what, because he also said he was looking for suggestions and, trying to figure out the best way to do it. So one of my questions goes to when you said representation at the preliminary hearing, right? Are we going to guarantee that folks actually are being represented at their first hearing, the pre-trial hearing, when the decision is made regarding that detention? Are we going to, because I know currently our PD's department, looking at the budget, it doesn't look like we could have really afford to give that level of representation. So are we looking at increasing the PD's budget, or hiring more for that?
Let me say that the PD's office has already started that. They have already started that on a pilot basis, and that's separate and distinct from that. But the public defender's office has already started that. And once again, that's the public defender's office that can come and put it through. But yes, I am aware already that both the public defender's office and the district attorney's office will have to adjust their staffing with this new pretrial services program. But I can tell you that the public defender's office has already started representing people at those hearings outside of this program.
That's good to hear. And I keep telling you guys, it's kind of frustrating to get on these calls with you and expect you to say things like, no, we didn't do that check. No, we didn't know that. And then you guys kind of say, well, yeah, we saw that was a problem too. And, we're trying to address that. So I do appreciate you it's frustrating because I want to argue with you, but I do appreciate you for the efforts.
Mark, don't act like you don't argue with me. Don't.
Hey, Mark, where were you looking to move to? Just wondering. I'm glad you did it. I'm glad you're staying.
All of a sudden, my Zillow may pop up tomorrow with all these other areas and nothing available on Montco. It'll be you guys. All right, so you guys answered a couple of my things, because a big point for us was funding for the PD's office. Allie, I know you had some things written down. Did we miss anything?
So just to clarify, for the representation at first appearance, so I think I did hear that there was a pilot program that was working with some of the MDJs and some of in certain areas. So you're saying that is going to be expanded. So at the first appearance, that will just go across the board.
Yeah. So the rollout, and again, I might not have this exactly right, and Judge Del Ritchie can certainly correct me if I'm wrong here, but the rollout of the pretrial services program is going to start with I believe it's 19 of our 50 police departments that book at the correctional facility. The chief might actually, I think it's 19, right? You probably know better than I do, but it's going to start with those police departments. And they want to make sure, if I understood Judge Del Ricci correctly when he explained this to us, there's some technical aspects, there's interfaces with the state system and all this. So they're going to start in one place with those 19 departments and give that just a couple of weeks, like 2, 3, 4 weeks to make sure all the technical parts are working correctly. And then they plan to, pretty rapidly roll it out to the rest of the county. So they'll probably go to sort of booking center to booking center to booking center. All of the way the booking centers currently work is that it's just efficient for police to come to certain places where all the technology is set up and everything. So I don't know what the exact number that we have right now is. I think it's around a dozen, but they'll start rolling out to each. So the goal will be in fairly short order, but I don't know exactly what that time frame is, that it would be everywhere. And then the representation at the first hearing would be everywhere.
Thank you. Anything else, Allie?
Give me one.
Your list was way better than mine. That's why I'm doing this.
Okay. Yeah. Give me 1 second. Okay. So, and you're saying in terms of the pretrial services division, would you say, so it is up and running, but just part of it is up and running and it's going to be like, I guess I was kind of
not quite yet. They're still hiring the final group of staff. In fact, I know we have some people on salary board at tomorrow's meeting. And I don't know when they'll be completely done hiring. I think, Ken, do you remember, was it July they were going to try to go live?
Yeah, I'd really want them to come on and talk about that, And I would suggest having Greg and Crowell come on from the public defender's office as well, and to talk about representation as well. But I know that they're moving on. I think we have 3 people that we're approving tomorrow, but I can't say exactly how many they have hired thus far.
Okay.
Lee, I see you have your hand up. You have a question? If you're talking, you're muted.
No question.
Okay. All right. So first, again, I want to thank you guys for doing this pretrial services unit. One of the things that people have come across in Montco is the data collection, right? And whether like collecting appropriate data based on the arrest, Ms. Hinton can speak better to that. So, one of my questions, regarding the data, right? Because one of my questions would be, are we going to include data collection in this unit? So when we look at data collection, I think some folks have asked, of even our DA's office, even the county DA, for specific data of our arrest data, who are we arresting, demographics of those individuals, and consistently get told, well, we don't necessarily have that breakdown of the data. So is it already incorporated? And if not, is there a way to incorporate appropriate data collection with this new program?
And can I take that one step further? So we came across a group out of Harvard that has been doing, I know the NAACP had met, with the commissioners about this. And so we had talked about us kind of being like the outside, helping to, do oversight, if you will. And so a big part of that would be actually having data. And so we came across a group from Harvard, we were referred to, and they have been doing this in other areas, I think even Allegheny County. And so wondering, would you be supportive of an organization like Harvard coming in and maybe doing that actual data collection? Because I've reached out to the DA's office to ask for data, and I'm constantly being told that they don't track certain things and they're not able to aggregate certain things. And so I think the biggest piece to see if we're being successful or not is actually being able to look at, you know, the results. And so just wondering if that would be something that you would be open to, or you have already thought about, or, you know, what the case is there.
Well, you know, I'm a data geek. So, you know, I would absolutely support getting data, but I can't answer your question. That's definitely a Doug Coppin and Judge Del Ritchie question. I know there have been discussions of data collection. I don't know any of the specifics. I don't know, Ken, if you do, but that's where that conversation needs to happen.
And I'll say too that because there's two of us here, we can't deliberate or we can't say. So I will say in general that, yeah, I believe that data collection is necessary to measure anything and everything. So, you know, I couldn't get into the specifics of a company or this specific thing, but I would say, I don't know if I'm as big a geek as Val, but, you know, I believe that's how you measure success. You have to have some kind of benchmarks and metrics to do that in any government program.
So in questioning about the data, and I do understand it's a tough situation because I know this program is under the judiciary, right? But one of the things Ken said was, you know, you guys have the power of the purse in this dialogue about what this program looks like. And I think when folks are asking for data, and I know especially with the Harvard study, one of the things that strikes me in this entire process, right, is we could say, you guys could meet with Kevin Steele and the judges can agree, right, to say, well, we won't do cash bail anymore. We're going to use, you know, the system of checking to see, you know, somebody's history and stuff, right? And we use other factors to determine pretrial detention. The concern comes in that the same folks that were levying the cash bail to begin with would now be the ones making the decision on whether or not to detain somebody. Like, that person itself doesn't change. So it goes back to the whole throwing money at the situation, right? Like, we're just throwing some ideas around. So how would we then combat, you know, that fact that it's still the same, like, so other than that data to talk to judges about, to say, hey, this is how you're typically ruling.
So Mark, so let me say that, you know, when they explain the program more, you know, a district judge can make a recommendation against what the metric would be, but then there will be a 24-hour appeal process, right? So if they say, if they still give the cash bail, then it will come back. So, you know, of course that's going to be known, right? When if a person has to come back, because that will be known, and you know, judges are important. They are on the ballot, and we've talked about that on some of the NAACP calls as well. Is that, yes, I think people are going to have to start looking at judges. And
so the reason why, so I just learned, I didn't understand the fact that all judges all over this country were not always on the ballot, right? I thought this was everywhere. So I'm understanding this gift that we have in Pennsylvania, where we actually get the power belongs to the people in this concept. So part of the reason why I want to drive home the whole data portion and judges being a part of it is that's a question that we are now starting to ask judges going into these races and these elections. If this study is presented to you for this data collection, will you participate in it? Or will you say no to it, right? If they're saying no, then we can't willfully go out to people and say, we need to vote this judge in, right? And so I guess what we're asking for from the commissioners is, if we got every judge who was ready to say, yes, we would participate in this study, would you guys, because again, it's always come back to you guys to pay for it, right? If we got them all to say they would you, if it's not free, pay for a study like that to collect that data?
Mark, we're not trying to be jerks here, but we literally cannot discuss things unless we're in a public meeting that we would have to vote on. And anything that has a cost to the county is something that we have to vote on. So, you know, if you wanted to speak to us individually, that could happen, but we cannot discuss that on this.
I can respect that. See you tomorrow. No. I won't be there tomorrow. Let me see. So is the pretrial unit in coordination at all with our probation unit, or is that completely separate?
I believe so, but again, this isn't our program. So we're doing our best here to give you the outlines of it, but I believe so, but I can't describe what that looks like exactly.
Okay,
so,
but it's not run. The probation unit is not responsible for the actual setup of this. So
no.
They'll work with the pretrial unit, but it's not coming from.
Yeah,
like,
pretrial, it's a separate department under the courts.
Yeah, a new department has been created.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anybody that has any other questions for our commissioners? No?
I have a question. I'm just wondering, supposing I'm arrested and that I'm starting to go through this process, how, I mean, in terms of the vision of this new pretrial program, how would my experience be different under that program than it has been up until now?
Well, I think in the simplest matters, first you would have representation at that preliminary hearing. And if today you were arrested for something that we would typically, that the magisterial district judge would typically assign cash bail for, in the vast majority of charges, that would not be the case under this system. There would be some check-in to make sure that the individual showed up at the next hearing, and that, or at the trial, or at the hearing, I guess, and there would be an assessment of any services that an individual might be in need of between now and then, particularly if it's an individual in need of mental health or substance use disorder supports or services. And there's a whole process for texting people. You know, we've had a huge problem with mail, because not only is the mail slow, but people move and they miss notices, all that. So everything's going to turn into texts. And there's some provision, again, I'm getting out of my league here. If someone doesn't have a phone that can receive text, I think they've come up with a way to make sure they have some kind of device so they can get these notices. So it would be quite different than the experience today, where if you couldn't pay that cash bail, you would go into the correctional facility.
Thank you. Ms. Hinton? No. Okay, I saw your hand raised. All right. So again, I thank you both for being willing to take the time out to come and help us in our journey to learn, this process in Montgomery County. One of the things that came out of our call with New Jersey a couple of weeks ago was the fact that changing cash bail in New Jersey legitimately has them at a place of getting ready, looking at closing the county prison, because population is a lot less now in the county prison, right? My hope would be we could get there, because that county prison that we're paying for in the county is a pretty big expense for us to keep paying for it. So I would hope we can get there. Again, I know it's a process.
It's a question that I ask regularly, and particularly during COVID, where, as Val mentioned, to some degree, this was implemented out of urgency. And what's that number? So the way it works is to close a wing, right? Because so you need to get it down so then a wing can go away. But I hear you, and I'm with you.
Right, and I know you guys have been, pretty progressive. You've been supportive since I've been interacting with both of you guys. And as I told you guys, I think the first time I met both of you, I'm not here for the easy stuff. I'm here to ask and push to the limits that we just haven't gone to yet, right? I got a lot of time left on this earth, but I'm getting up there in age. Like I know, you know, my son is soon to set. I want to make sure I leave a good world for my grandchildren, right? So just want to be able to fully address. And I know you guys have a little bit, you know, as commissioners currently, some of the things you can answer, you know, you can't really. So one of the things I would ask for your assistance is, in speaking with Judge Del Ricci, he asked that he only present to 2 or 3 people. I don't consider myself a leader of the people that are on this call. I'm just a person that's on this call, right? So I know that some people have leadership teams, but I believe that there's more power in this group of 16 participants than there would be in just me figuring out what this is going to look like and then me trying to come back. So what I would ask is, if even Del Ricci wasn't available, could you guys assist with coordinating? And I'd be interested to hear from the guy from New Jersey, the guy who's heading the new pretrial unit that's from New Jersey, right? To hear his view on it, because my understanding, from what I know, when he came over, but he was part of that transition in New Jersey over to, you know, no cash bail, right? So I would hope, you know, that if you guys can assist, you know, with getting them on a call with us, I'll reach out to the PD's office on my own, but I also don't want Del Ricci to feel like we're like stepping on his toes and going around him. So if at all, if maybe he's not comfortable and he wants to do it a different way first, but I know you guys are in communication with him in regards to the program. And we really, as people, we really want to know like the entire program. And I know you guys can't give it to us, right? But we really want to know what the program is. And we want to be able to help so that maybe we could offer something that we've learned, that one of the guys, and the reason that we pulled the brakes back from coming to commissioners meetings and demanding a release of everybody that's being currently held on cash bail, part of the reason for that is one of the young men who spoke at a thing we were on in Allegheny County where they're working to end cash, where they've ended cash bail action, right? One of the things he spoke to was the, what do you call that thing again that they use?
Are you talking about the risk assessment tool?
Yes. So the risk assessment tool that's used, right? If somebody just stays by it, all of the data that we would use in that risk assessment tool, if we would say that the system is skewed, the system has done these horrible things, systemic racism in the system. If we use that exact same data as a risk assessment, we would be committing the same mistakes again. Because those risk assessments would be based on data that we know is skewed. I was on another call where I heard about kids that in Montgomery County were keeping like a track of police contacts with kids, like just a normal contact with kids, right? So if we go to a risk assessment form, all of those contacts are now in that form. To the average judge who sees 50 cases a day and doesn't really know Sam from Tommy, that kid looks like he's a problematic kid, right? But in fact, he just had contacts because the store owner called the cops on him because he was hanging out in front of the store. A homeowner called the cops because he rode his bike on their grass. These are all contacts that through that system could end up harming someone. So my question would be, have we settled on what we're going to use in the opposition to cash bail? Like, what's the alternative to using cash bail? Is that something for you guys, or is that something that we're leaving up to the judges?
Yeah, I think there's been a great deal of sensitivity on that very issue, and the understanding that the traditional risk assessment tools were in and of themselves carried racial bias. So I know they have spent a lot of time on this issue, and they have a very clear plan, and they should explain it to you. Yeah.
I think it's not just it's not just racial bias, it's prosecutorial bias. Judges heavily come from the district attorney side, or they come from the prosecutorial side. I don't know what the percentages are. Somebody might know, but I know the public defenders very rarely get put forth by either party to run for judge, and they face a heavy barrier. So that's just a lack of understanding of what's going on within the system. And I just to echo what Mark said before, those who have maintained a broken system for so long, and we're talking about inequity to defendants, and it's racially biased, we know that, but to all defendants. But it's a fiscal issue too, because of the incarceration. I understand that it's the courts that administer it. So I guess I have a question. Is it by state charter, is it state code, or is it by county code that the courts have the free will to do with whatever money you give them? And for us, it's a matter of leadership. I understand that you can't make the decisions of creating the program once you allocate the funding, but to abdicate the responsibility for leading us to a better and more equitable system of criminal justice. Maybe we can help educate you in the future, but we need to have that conversation. Those are the conversations to the common person. People were aghast we went 2 weeks ago, and people were aghast that there's a 3-to-1 funding difference between the DA's office and the public defender's office. And there always has been. And so people were wondering, how does that go on? But I mean, I don't know how many people attend your regular meetings, but most people don't know what goes on. So it's like, that's our goal, is to help educate the public and empower you guys to do what I believe you want to do the right thing. I'm not being critical of you guys, but yeah, so.
Well, Jamie, I would not characterize that we're abdicating any responsibility here. We have fully funded this program, and we have funded it to the degree that we've been asked to fund it. And we will be continuing to work very closely with them to understand how it's going, what the metrics are, all these things that we've talked about tonight. So I frankly resent you suggesting that we
but Val, I apologize, because I wasn't saying you were. I was just saying that when you just fund that, even if you're funding what they ask for, it's those evaluation tools of collecting that data to see and making sure that it's done in a better and more equitable way. That's all.
I completely, okay. I'm sorry if I misinterpreted what you said. Right. I agree completely with you on that point. And again, I know that there have been weeks of work on figuring out what assessment tool to use or how to make the assessment. And I don't want to mischaracterize what they ultimately decided on. But I would also say that there's a commitment among everyone involved in this program for continual reassessment and learning. No one is arrogant enough to think that this is going to be perfect out of the gate, but we don't also want to let the perfect be the enemy of the good and not get started. I mean, I feel an enormous sense of urgency to get this program up and running. It is like one of the things that we have done through COVID, besides COVID, is get this program ready to launch. It has been our absolute priority. So and look, the proof's always in the deed and the doing of it, but I can tell you that our commitment is to a continual learning process from this. I have asked these questions too, and wanted to understand what the feedback loop is going to be to make sure that we are moving forward in a way that meets the goals that we all want, which is a much more equitable situation here. And we welcome your input as this goes on. And I'm sorry, we're really not trying to dissemble here or anything. We told Mark we wouldn't be able to answer all these questions. He wanted us to come on anyway, which we were happy to do. But I don't want to overstep here because I don't want to misstate something just because I am not intimately involved in the day-to-day details of how this program is being stood up. So I just don't want to misrepresent anything either.
I understand that. Can you, without deliberating between your or your colleague, can you talk about the disparity in funding between the DA and the public defender's office, because one of the things we learned from Ms. Jones from New Jersey a couple weeks ago was that resources matter. And since they've changed their program, they have been privy to more pretrial information. They've been given more investigators. They've been funded not anywhere near at parity with the DA's office, but they have seen increase in resources. And so, I mean, you do that every year. You look at the budgets of these two agencies. Do you have, I mean, are you willing to?
Well, if you look at the data from since when I've been a commissioner, the public defender's office has gotten more money, I think, every one of those years. Maybe not my very first year, because I think the budget was already set when I came in. So the funding is getting closer every year.
But the funding will never be the same, because the district attorney's office handles every criminal case and the public defender's office does not. So, but we have been committed to equalizing the pay between those two offices and have continued to work on that though. But, you know, the district attorney's office handles every criminal case. The public defender's office does not. So there's always going to be a difference there.
Yeah, I understand that. It's when we talk about extending representation to first appearance, which hasn't happened in the past, though, that automatically puts more pressure on the public defender's office.
And as I stated earlier, Jamie, the public defender's office has started doing that, and we've committed to make sure that they have the resources to do what they're doing now and to expand it.
Cool, thank you.
Can I just ask one other question, going back to the data? Whatever they decide, I know you guys haven't, you know, is it going to definitely be transparent for people in the community to see? Because like I said, I've requested data from the DA's office and was told they don't track it. And so that's the thing, right? Like that there'll actually be data available and, you know, accessible to people, you know, in the public, to just, you know, so they can feel comfortable and confident and see kind of what's going on, especially, you know, if you have outside organizations that you're kind of looking to help as we learn, you know, what we're doing and how to evolve and make it better, right? So is the data definitely, whatever you decide to use, going to be disseminated to the public?
So Angie, it's hard for me to answer because I don't know the specifics, right? But I will make this commitment to you. Whatever the data is that is being collected and whatever it is that is being made public, if it is lacking in some way, insufficient, not whatever, I am happy to work with you to make that better. I can't, again, I know it probably sounds like I'm trying to dodge something here. I just honestly don't know the specifics.
Yeah.
And so in the absence of that, it's hard for me to answer your question, but I am committed to this being public and people having the data they need to understand the program.
Okay, great.
Thank you. And Pam, I'm going to get to your question next. So I just want to be clear. We are completely aware that you guys can't answer the questions, right? But we know that this is going to be an ongoing dialogue. My hope is that this group, right, Progressive Montco, is one of the groups, this racial justice working group, is one of the groups that continue, you know, to work with you guys on appropriate, like equitable way to handle it. So I say that to say, I wanted you guys to still come today because again, you may not be able to answer everything, right? But first and foremost, we need to know that the people that are paying for this are on the same page we're on. Like you could have just been paying for it just to pay for it because it was the right thing to do, right? So without having an understanding of what you guys understand of the thing already, like what you guys are funding, what your understanding is behind what it is that you're funding, right? Like we need to know that in order, because now when we talk to, you know, that unit, we have a better understanding of questions to ask. So these starter questions that we're asking now, basically, right, about how it would look, even if you couldn't answer it, the fact that you can't answer it, number one, makes us know this is definitively a question for them, right, that we have to ask them. And number two, there are some things that you guys may have not even thought about in the process that we ask you on this call that you could get off of this call, think about and say, well, you know what? Hey, and whatever that looks like, and, you know, that's my goal in this. I don't think any conversation that we have is unworthy of having, especially with this process, because we don't know what it looks like. New Jersey still hasn't mastered this process at all. It's one of the reasons I invited Chief Tierney, right? And I also invited Chief Nolan to come on tonight, but I know he couldn't make it tonight, is because, so after our call last week, my brother is a sergeant over in Camden. He's the training coordinator for the Camden Metro Police Force, right? So I played back the video from our call 2 weeks ago that we had to get a police officer's perspective on this change. How does this affect policing, right? One of the things that he talked about was the disconnect with the police force with this damn process. So the police officers are picking people up on the street that we know are going to be released in 3 hours, that we know so because all of these systems aren't truly working together, right? Then we end up with these disjointed things that nobody pays attention to until the worst case scenario happens, right? Until that guy steals a loaf of bread and is sitting in jail for a loaf of bread because he was a bum and always got caught stealing, right? Like until that happens, nobody really starts to address these issues. So if we're having this consistent dialogue, the chances of that even happening just by us being on this call today has already significantly decreased. So I just want to be clear on that. I don't want you guys to feel like we think you're dodging questions. I was aware coming in that you guys wouldn't be able to answer everything, but the knowledge that you did have about it was absolutely important for us to get going into our
well, and Mark, as I've said to you before, and I've said it to Angie as well, hold us accountable. I mean, hold us accountable. Ultimately, we all will be accountable by our records.
Right.
And, you know, hold us accountable. But as I mentioned too, there's other factors at play as well. But, you know, we're here. You invite us here. Right. We're here. We'll come again.
For the record, you guys have been to everything. I've not gotten a no from either one of you guys. And I'm grateful for that. Like I've not once invited you guys to speak, answer questions, have a conversation with me, help me with an issue, and not gotten a yes response in this work. And I know that it's not as comfortable for you guys because you guys are commissioners for the whole Montgomery County, not just Norristown. And people in Norristown and Cheltenham and Pottstown, right? They are 100% agree with this work. You guys got to go to the rest of the county, and everybody else in the rest of the county isn't necessarily okay with this work. So I know you're hearing it from the other side. So no matter what, it's still brave of you to be on a call with social justice warriors like ourselves.
We don't go on Zooms with them. They just get us on Twitter and Facebook under fake names. So that's all, you know, at least I believe that every name I see here is the person who's there.
They are.
You know, the opponents, they like to do it undercover, which says something in itself. If you don't want to put your name behind it or the way I've shut up some trolls is I said, well, I'd like to get on a Zoom with you and talk about X. Oh, then all of a sudden they don't, you know, they never tweet back at that.
Pam, that question?
There it goes. Oh, okay, thanks.
You sound
first
low.
of all,
okay, there you go.
Can you hear me okay? Ken and Val, first of all, thank you so much. We really do appreciate your coming and, you know, kind of sharing with the group. It makes me feel really encouraged that, you know, we're kind of on the same page. We may not agree with everything, but we're kind of on the same page as to where we want to go with this. I think that one question I had, and maybe I'm not totally understanding this, but I believe actually, Dean, that you said that last time something about the pretrial hearings, there was no official recording of them or documentation of them. I'm wondering if that will change because speaking to like what Angie and Mark were saying about data collection, I mean, I think that, am I right when you said that when people were being, you know, represented at pretrial hearings, that the person representing them would maybe record it, but it seems like there should be an official recording so that we know exactly what the judge says officially, and how the deliberations went in the pretrial hearing.
Yeah, that is definitely a question for the team. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a lawyer. I haven't been there. I can't imagine why I thought my layman sense is that there would be a transcript of every hearing, every court, but so that's news to me.
Just there's not. There is no transcript of those hearings.
There isn't.
It seems like it would be hard to do data collection in an objective way if we didn't have that information.
Hey, would that be a question for us to ask Del Ritchie when we get him on the call? Because I know a lot of them have, of course, a lot has been on Zoom now, right? And so if they continued utilizing that could be utilized as a way to record things. And so I just don't, would that be the appropriate place to go, Ken, Val?
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have two other questions that are separate from pre-trial. So does anybody have any other questions in regarding the pre-trial division? Great. So my one thing, it's not even a question. I just wanted to make you guys as commissioners of, and I know you guys can't fix everything, right? So one of the things for policing for me is it's very difficult in Montco because we have 52 different
50.
So it's very hard, right? It's very hard to form a uniform standard. I know when I spoke at commissioners meetings previously last year, this is one of the things that I spoke to. So in some of our discussions, we had discussed developing citizens boards. I don't want to say oversight because everybody gets jumpy with the word oversight, right?
Oh, that's a good word. That's a good word for political scientists. Come on.
Citizens committees to work jointly with police forces to review some of these issues that we have, right? And the response that I have received from the DA's office was that commission would be a countywide commission, right? That he would be willing to do it countywide, but not for the 50 different police forces. And I was wondering, I don't know if you could answer this directly today, or I would be confused how we could get to a countywide citizens force without a countywide police force. Like, I don't see how. So, and the reason I bring it up is currently, I just saw before we got on this call, so maybe it's fate that I saw this on social media, and now I'm on a call with commissioners. Over in the North Penn School District, or North Penn High School, a Muslim young lady was jumped by two white girls yesterday in school. They pulled off her hijab. There have been previous threats made to the young lady. The family is arguing with the police force about why this is a hate crime without any support. As we can imagine, in that district, in that area, that family having that fight, they're kind of on their own, right? But the fact that that police force, Tawa Mukin, or I don't know the exact name of which force it is, right? But that police force has their own ability to make their own decision in that case. How could we help families that are in that situation, that are in our northwestern part of Montgomery County?
Well, I'll defer to the chief, but let me just make sure everyone's sort of on a level playing field here. So the police report to the municipality, the elected leadership in the municipality in which they work. So we do not have any kind of countywide police force. The existence of something like that does not, there's no legal mechanism for that in Pennsylvania statute. I mean, it would require a substantial change in the laws. So we have literally nothing to do with the governance of our municipal police. Having said that, they are always willing, it's been my experience that they're always willing to work together to work on issues like this, but it's not something that we have control over, or even frankly, the district attorney has any control over. We can all act as conveners. Okay. But at the end of the day, and again, I'm going to turn this to the chief, but they have to answer to the municipality that hires them. So, and I'll let the chief take it from there.
Mark, so in that regard, the school district reports to the police. The police are the gatherers of fact. And then they look at everything that may be going on, interviews and so on. And then when they look at charging, they probably communicate with the district attorney's office, see how far up the line that can go, what the appropriate charges might be. The township, the police department may have a recommendation on that, but they're going to work in concert with the district attorney's office to get those charging documents right. And it's really, it sounds simplistic. It's not, but that's pretty much what it comes down to. But as Dr. Arkoosh said, each municipality with its own police department has its own governing body. It's not like the county commissioners rule Hatfield and Tolmenson, that's the department you're speaking about, and so on. Like, everyone has their own governing body. The governing body generally allows the police department to make those solitary decisions on their own. That's why they pay the police. But then the police, doing their due diligence, will interact with the district attorney's office.
I appreciate that. I just, you know, it was I don't want to say shameless plug, but I wanted to make you guys aware of something that was happening in Montco. I'm aware of the, you know, the whole police force. You know, each force reports to their municipality. I made the comment of a countywide police force to I guess that's like what you would call a seed of things to potentially maybe look for in our future, because I don't see how. I worry that in such a great county, and I understand the whole laws and how hard this will end up being, and you know, this is not a 2023 issue. I get that concept, but I worry that, like, right now we're having issues where some municipalities are not decriminalizing marijuana, right, but making them summary offenses now, and then others aren't. So Upper Marion has made it a summary offense. Norristown has made it a summary offense. There's dispensaries in Upper Marion. Guy from Norristown goes to Upper Marion to pick up weed, drives through Bridgeport and gets pulled over with his weed. Now he has a misdemeanor offense. It's literally where we're at right now in the county. And it happens that, I know it sounds, you know, the chief was just saying like some things sound so simple, but it's not that simple. That's one of those things that are that simple. There are countless people that get caught in that kind of a situation. Now, I know you guys don't control all the municipalities, right? Like, I know each municipality has their own, and they have to pass their own.
Any of them, Mark, any of them. We don't control any of them. It's not all, not part, any of them.
So we as people would have to then mobilize in each township. And I don't, like, not just for protests, but go to each township and have that discussion with each. And I think we talked about this before when I brought this up to you guys, where we would have to talk to each police chief and each township's commissioners or supervisors about all of us getting on the same page.
Well, I was on a Zoom earlier tonight, and I was talking about local elections matter. Local elections matter. These municipal elections, across the board, the school board elections, and quite honestly, people don't pay as much attention to them as they do to the countywide offices or the legislative offices. But in each of we all live in the collective of Montgomery County, but we each live in our own municipality. And I know I'm preaching to the choir with some of the folks on here who know that's why these local elections are so critically important, to make sure that you have people there who represent the values and will promote the policies that will help the greater collective good as well.
That's what we teach our kids at PAU, folks.
Does anybody have any other questions for our two gracious commissioners that joined on the call for this this shindig tonight? Does anybody have any other questions? Jamie?
Yeah, just a quick follow-up to missed this before because I was accusatory. And for the record, I wasn't attacking your leadership or being critical of your leadership. Once again, we want to help you provide leadership. So I asked about what law, is it state or is it county law that is in charge of the courts and how they're administered? Is that by state statute?
State.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
very good. Thank you.
Totally, they're all elected, right? All of those judges are elected. And then there's a whole structure that governs them at the state level. That actually reminded me of something I wanted to just mention earlier. And I don't necessarily mean this to be a criticism. I just find it interesting as a non-lawyer myself. The magisterial district justices are not required to be attorneys. Anybody can run for DJ. Really? And I, as a doctor, I feel like, gosh, did anyone just go in and start doing surgery? Like, so I don't understand that exactly. I know that there's a course that they take, but when I'm not sure if it was Jamie or Mark or Angie who was talking earlier about the inconsistency between the MDJs and how they might rule in particular situations. I think I view that as an opportunity for improvement. I'm not saying they have to be lawyers because that creates a whole nother set of barriers, right? That may or may not, maybe not is necessary. But I also don't know, I'm not very familiar with the training that they do go through. And that is a really critical entry point because that is the first person that sees individuals that have become justice involved. And so I just throw that out there as something else that you might want to take a look at.
Absolutely. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Every meeting we have, we learn something new, and I just learned that bit of information. So I appreciate that. Okay.
I've recently learned that I think it's a very short training that they have, and that half of the ones that we have in Montgomery County, I think, are retired police officers. So that's interesting as well. But I'm
not running for office at all. So.
Well, no, nothing against police officers, but it's just an interesting dynamic of the people, because they're hearing from the police officers who say, this person was charged with this, we might want you this, and then somebody who was a former police officer and maybe has that mindset of, looking at it from a different perspective. And so, but I think what the commissioner said is helpful to think about, and that has been a thing that we've been thinking about, asking these questions to people that are running, and asking them if they would, do certain things. And one of the things that we had actually talked about was something that you brought up that was really helpful, was saying that in the new pretrial services division that they would be, I guess, doing texting for the next hearing. And there's a problem with mail because we've heard so many times that there's so many problems where people will get bench warrants because they didn't know, they don't, in the courtroom, they don't get their next hearing if it's continued, and they don't know when to show. It goes to old address, or that are in the criminal justice system have, housing issues. They might be sleeping on someone's couch, they might have been in a homeless shelter, all kinds of issues that crop up. So I think that's something that we'd want to talk to Del Ritchie about as well. Just, it doesn't make sense that they would be sending something in the mail. And so that texting program sounds good if they have
critical. Yeah, for this to work.
Yeah. So thank you.
Greatly.
It's interesting you brought up excuse me, Mark, the legal requirement or prerequisite for perhaps being a magisterial district court judge. But over the years, I've known some fantastic judges at that level in New York and here who were not attorneys. And I think that their level of compassion and humanity may be broader. I don't know. I don't want to knock lawyers. I'm just saying that I think it's a mixed case, but a certain, making sure there's a certain level of education is certainly.
Right. Yeah. And I want to be clear. I'm not passing judgment. I remember how shocked I was when I learned that, it just never crossed my mind that they weren't lawyers. And so
as shocked as I was just now.
I just throw that out there. It's just, you know, there may be an opportunity there in the train. I don't know what training they go through. So I don't know that you have to be a lawyer, but I just think whatever the training is, there's a really great opportunity there.
I think this is all information that they should be aware of, everything we've discussed tonight. And I don't know if that always occurs, you know, the human side of it.
Anne-Marie?
Yeah, thank you. I was just wondering, like, that was the first that I've heard of that. So thank you, Commissioner Arkoosh, for letting us know about that. I was wondering, do you know if that's also like the purview of the state legislator? Is that by state law how like the requirements of trainings for ministerial judges?
I believe so, but I'm not certain.
That's fine. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Are there any other questions before we start to wind down? We're at 9:28. Great with time today, folks. Well, that's great. So I want to thank Val and Ken, you know, our two commissioners, for joining on the call today. Again, I want to extend my gratitude for your willingness to, at a minimum, at least listen to some of these concerns. And my frustration, again, with the fact that a lot of times I get on these calls with you guys and you guys have already heard some of these things and are starting to address them. It's always a pleasant surprise to, you know, hear that. So again, I want to thank you for coming on. I'm not going to stop harassing you. I could tell you now. I'm
not harassment.
Here to bug you. I have one COVID question. How come when you apply for a test now online, you have to provide insurance?
With us?
Yes, if you go on the Montco website now to try to schedule a test, you can't get past the insurance page anymore.
Is there a drop down that says choose not to answer?
No, it just says take a picture of your insurance card. Previously, that same page would say you could skip this question.
Yeah, all right. It must
but
have
now
been
you can't skip that question.
Thank you for letting me know. I'll take care of that tomorrow.
See?
It's not supposed to be that way. You're not talking about vaccine, you're talking about testing, right?
No, I'm talking about testing.
Okay.
You know, I'm doing a lot of testing in the house right now. We have a lot of...
testing is good.
Yeah, no, it shouldn't be there.
Even better.
That should not be.
Yeah.
It should not be.
It must have gotten toggled when we adjusted the hours, and probably somewhere in the course of that, it got accidentally. So thank you for letting me know.
No problem. So if nobody else has anything else, as customary for our closing, go back around the room. How do you feel at the end of this meeting? One word, if you can, at a minimum, less than 30 seconds though. All right, we are going to start with Miss Hinton.
Oh boy. No, I feel good. I feel, you know, we learned something new. We know we got to ask some more questions and we know where to go. So, you know, we're learning every day. We're learning something new.
Thank you. Jamie?
Grateful for the commissioners being here and for all the work you people are doing.
Thank you. Allie?
Ready. I feel ready for our next conversation with Del Ritchie. And yeah, so thanks so much for being here to help let us know all the questions that we do need to ask.
Bill?
I'm going to start out with how Dr. Arkoosh, or I'm going to end with how Dr. Arkoosh started, hopeful.
Charlie?
Happy and refreshing also for folks to say that when they don't know an answer and say, I may not be the best one. So it's good to hear that and to be able to guide us to others who may know it.
Randy and Pam?
Hopeful and grateful for both of you being at the meeting tonight.
Same with me, and I'm also feeling a little more optimistic than I was before. I feel like there are some steps in the right direction, which is encouraging. So, and thanks for coming.
Jennifer, thank you.
I just feel like it's a thumbs up. And thank you to Val and Ken for coming. It's really nice to have them here and to hear from them. So thank you.
Thank you. Kelly?
got it this time. I feel really hopeful, and I'm appreciative to Val and Ken and for all of you here. And I'm excited for the next meeting too.
Thank you. Anne Marie?
I would just say that I feel motivated, and I'm thankful for everyone for sharing their time with us.
Thank you. Jan?
I'm both hopeful and grateful to our commissioners for coming to our meeting. And I appreciate that.
Thank you. Anania?
I would say that I'm curious both to hear from the judge and to see how this relatively new program unfolds.
Thank you. We're going to get you off that laptop next meeting, Anania. We're going to get you off that laptop. Dean?
I am hopeful and curious as to the future. So I look forward to it.
Thanks. Val?
I remain hopeful, and I'm very grateful for all of your commitment to this work. It really does take all of us working at this together. So I'm very grateful for that.
Thank you.
It's not easy stuff.
Thanks. And Ken?
So I don't think anybody did one word, so I'm not going to either. So first of all, I'm determined. I'm determined that we continue this work and that we don't have to have these calls to talk about these things because the issues are resolved. But I'm also grateful for the opportunity to talk with you all, to dialogue, to answer questions, to get asked questions so it can educate us as well. So determined and grateful, Mark, are my 2 words.
Thanks. I appreciate you all. Before we get off, Randy and Pam asked a question early, way early in the call. I said a stat that they were kind of confused by. I didn't forget. So in Cheltenham, I think it was in 2020 or no, 2019 stats, 100% of the arrests at the school were Black children. 100%. This is why we fight, and this is why we keep doing, what we're doing. Like I'm sure there's a lot more than Black kids acting up at Cheltenham High School. So I want to thank you all for coming tonight. 2 weeks again on Wednesday, I believe that will be the 19th, Wednesday, May 19th, 8 p.m. again. I will reach out to Judge Del Ritchie. We may meet with Del Ritchie separately, and hopefully he can send somebody from the pretrial unit to meet with us as a group to give the group a clear understanding. If that's what he's the most comfortable with, we'll continue the dialogue with him. I would invite Val, Ken, and Bill. I know Chief Nolan said when we had that call, he probably would be on that. They asked him, because I guess he's a part of this process also, to be on that call with us. So I'm inviting you guys also because, as we said early, it's all a learning experience for all of us. And in order to get it right, we all got to be on the same page here. So again, I thank you all for coming tonight. Have a great night. Have a great weekend. Stay safe, folks.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Mark.